Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Christine Woodwell, and I'm the Executive Director of Latvian American Chamber of Commerce. And thank you so much for making this a part of your week. We are here for the 8th installment of Mini Spotlight webinar. We are super excited to have an exciting topic today, and I'm delighted to have Leva join me, and this is our first entirely virtual webinar.
Yes, hi, Christina, and I see people are writing in the chat. Feel free to utilize the chat. It's going to be open the whole webinar. Hi, my name is Leva Stormane, and I'm the Managing Director of the Latvian Exporters Association, the Red Jackets, and we're really thrilled to be a partner in this event for the 8th webinar, because today we have especially really worked very keenly on the topics at hand, and we are highlighting the intriguing and complicated topic of doing business with the U.S. federal government. Our panelists are experts in receiving and utilizing U.S. government grants and business contracts.
That is correct. So collectively, our partners and guests have secured over $25 billion in federal funding. That's with a B. And today we want you to walk away with confidence and knowledge of how to grow your business via doing business with the U.S. government. And that's a really unique way to think about business development.
Definitely. Thank you to our partners in the series and for your continued support. We have very many regular faces and names here in the audience, so it's a pleasure to see that. This is the 8th webinar out of 10, so stay tuned for 2 more consecutive webinars this season. And these series are made possible with the partnership between the Latvian American Chamber of Commerce, the Latvian Exporters Association, the Red Jackets, and of course the Latvian Investment and Development Agency.
And in addition to today's webinar and panel discussion, we will have an offer to join a virtual optional networking following immediately this webinar. So for housekeeping purposes, your video and your audio is currently off. So as Leva mentioned, feel free to utilize the chat function for question purposes, as well as the Q&A function on the bottom that should be available to you. We will have a question and answer portion as soon as we get going. But without further ado, I want to introduce our moderator today, Mr. Renārs Bundzis. So I'm going to have him join our virtual stage. Thank you for hanging with me as I move people around. So Renārs is the regional director for our Michigan region. He is wonderfully agreed to moderate today's discussion, and he's certainly an expert in this field. He graduated from Northern Michigan University and spent several years working for Dow Chemical before joining Space Incorporated, where today he currently leads marketing and sustainability teams and driving innovation in the commercial furniture market. Renārs is a proud father of 3 daughters and spends his time giving to local nonprofits and the Latvian community. So we are so excited for Renārs to lead the discussion. So take it away.
Thank you, Christina. Hello, everyone. I'm Renārs Bundzis. I'm honored to serve as your moderator for today's webinar. As Christina mentioned, I'm the Michigan Regional Director for Latvian American Chamber of Commerce and also the Director of Marketing and Sustainability at Space Incorporated, where I regularly collaborate with federal government clients. And recognizing the opportunities of federal contracting, I felt it was important to provide our chamber members with this platform to explore new ways for Latvian and Latvian American businesses to engage in the United States government procurement. So today's session is designed to equip you with the insights and strategies for navigating this unique market. But before we start, I'd like to let you know that throughout our webinar, we will be launching polls. So please feel free to engage with them as they will allow us to better understand our audience. And with that being said, I would like to start our today's panel with the introduction of our first panelist, Gloria Larkin. She's a renowned expert and advisor in government procurement. And Gloria, please tell us a little bit about you and the work of your company.
Hi, Renārs. It's an honor to be here. My name is Gloria Larkin. I'm president of TargetGov. We have been in business 27 years, helping companies, just like everyone attending, win U.S. federal contracts here in the United States as well as worldwide. We've helped our clients win over $20 billion, and today we're going to talk about how to do that.
Thank you, Gloria. I appreciate that. Now let's hear from Sandis Kondrāts, who will introduce Exonicus and share a little bit about how he took his first steps in federal government market.
Hello, my name is Sandis Kondrāts, and in short, I have a short deck in front of me. So Exonicus Inc. is supporting NATO and its allies to save lives on the battlefield. So Exonicus is a US small business based in Seattle, Washington, incorporated in Delaware, affiliated Latvian company with the Latvian subsidiary, total 15 employees, 9 years ago started. So we have customers in the United States, both in Europe, Latvian, Estonian, and German armed forces. So we help teach, train, trauma simulation, so to help save lives in the battlefield. We are in education, medical education segment. So it is a virtual reality type training. Thank you. It's in short.
Thank you, Sandis. Our next speaker is John Dulany, who will share about his work with SAF in the public safety and military markets in the United States and his involvement in the federal government business as well. Apologies for the quick technical delay. John will be here shortly.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Renārs, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Take it
Okay,
away.
okay, very good. Yeah, I had to hit the sound button. I looked in chat. Sorry about that. Yeah, a little bit about myself. Spent my whole career selling microwave communication systems, basically a wireless alternative to fiber. That's 30 years in technical sales. Started as a sales engineer with a technical background, went to technical schools. I graduated to sales, regional sales manager, director of international sales, ultimately serving as VP of sales for a previous company. Past 8 years with SAF. It's been my pleasure to shift the TV broadcast market over to SAF, which has become now run rate business for SAF. I've recently been tasked with growing public safety, military, and government businesses with SAF. And I work closely with our resellers, with end customers, and I'm here today to help with direct sales related questions and strategies. A little bit about SAF, basically three products. Our core product is microwave communication equipment that is point-to-point microwave wireless. Basically, it's a wireless alternative to fiber connections, right? Giving you Ethernet, video, audio. Also test and measurement is one of our big sales at, our great products, and particularly into the DoD. We make the smallest, lightest weight spectrum analyzer in the world, a little handheld device, great for field operations for US military, DoD. And recently, SAF has migrated into the IoT business, so wireless sensors. Part of our wireless overall business strategy, we're doing wireless sensors for IoT.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the introduction. Now let's hear from our last panelist, Kathie Fuce Hobohm, the founder of Space Incorporated. She will share how her woman-owned small business revolutionized the federal government interior design.
Thank you, Renārs. Thanks to everybody on the webinar today. My name is Kathie Fuce Hobohm. A company called Space Incorporated. We design and we office interiors for the federal government. So we have had a GSA contract since 2004, and I am proud to say that we've sold over $100 million worth of products and services to the federal government. So it's a great space for us. We're not your typical contractor. We are a small, very small, women-owned small business. We're located in Midland, Michigan, and we have done business throughout the United States with the federal government. So I'm here to talk about two things. One is how we started and engaged in the federal government business to begin with, and then also to talk a little bit about introducing a new program to the federal government, which we've been working on for the last 4 years, called Space Anew. And that program is designed around sustainability and bringing to the federal government a different way of looking at their office furniture assets. Because right now, the federal government purchases $1 billion worth of assets annually. And that means they're buying about 59 million tons of furniture. And at the end of that life cycle, that 59 million tons of furniture is ending up in the landfill. So we think we've developed a better program, and we're introducing it to the federal government to continue our journey forward. So we think the future of work environments is sustainable, and we think the federal government should lead.
Thank you, Kathie. I appreciate that introduction. I would now like to invite all our panelists for a panel discussion in which we will dive in deeper into federal government contracting process. And I believe to start, a great place to do so is to understand the very basics of how to do it. So I'll direct my first question to Gloria, and I welcome other panelists after Gloria to chime in with their experience from their businesses and any takeaways or any type of experience that they want to share regarding this question. So Gloria, as the first question, I would like to ask you, what are the first steps a company should take when considering selling to the federal government?
This marketplace is very specific, and there's mandatory steps. The first one is being registered for free. It costs you nothing in a website called sam.gov, sam.gov. And this registration, whether you're a multi-million-dollar business or you're a single person operation, is required for you to do business with US federal government, either as a prime contractor where you are selling directly to the government, or as a subcontractor where you're working essentially for another business who is the contractor with the government. It's not difficult, but it does take some effort to get registered in sam.gov. And remember, anything with a .gov, any website with a .gov at the end is a federal government website and will not cost you any money to register there.
Thank you, Gloria. I would like to ask maybe Sandis to provide his viewpoint from how he started with federal government as his business is located in Latvia and across the globe, and provided some of his insights.
Yeah, so first of all, to do business with US government most effectively, you have to have a company in the United States. That's the case for the Exonicus. And the second is what the Gloria already said.
Apologies. Gloria, can you please put yourself on mute? It seems like it's cutting into Sandis' feed.
And so, sam.gov was the first step, which took some time without a, let's say, proper counseling. I did a bunch of mistakes, but I know now it's actually quite simple. Just need to pay attention to some of the basics, which I believe Gloria can help everyone. And so I'm Latvian, who started business in the United States. Yeah, and I did navigate through these steps, and by now, like $5 million of contracts, both research and commercial, my company has. So it's possible for the Latvians to do this. Just pay attention to some important details.
Thank you, Sandis. I appreciate it. I think it paints a really encouraging light that this is not possible and this is attainable, right? And it just takes some research and some time to do so. I will say I would like to bring Kathie into this conversation as she's a women-owned small business owner, and her journey started about 30 years ago with federal government.
Mhm. I did. And one of the tools that we used from a practical standpoint, after we didn't even know we needed to register on sam.gov, but we used our local PTAC, which is now called the Apex Accelerator. And in the United States, Apex Accelerators help small businesses do business with the government, and they are located regionally. So there are experts for free that you can go to that help you navigate business with the federal government. And that's basically how we started. We knew we wanted to do business with the federal government, but we are absolutely clueless about how to start. So the number one thing we did was go to our now called Apex Accelerator and have them help us navigate this market space.
Thank you, Kathie. I appreciate that. John, any insights from your perspective? John, can you hear me? Any insights from your side?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fast sales into the DoD. We basically focus on the DoD market. We make, as I mentioned, microwave communication equipment, and our key product for sales into the DoD is our little handheld spectrum analyzer. And the key for any business is to have the right product, right? For us, this key product is this little handheld spectrum analyzer. I mean, it's the size of a phone. A device that used to be 30, 40 pounds and you'd wheel it on the cart, SAF developed in the size of a phone. So military can use it in the field to detect RF signals, to detect if they're radiating signals. But anyway, long story short, the key to any business is to develop the right product, know where you want to target, which part of the federal government you want to target your sales to, and develop the right products if you don't already have the products.
Thank you, everyone, for those insights. I think a very fitting next question for us all is to understand maybe some key differences between selling to commercial clients and federal government clients. And maybe I'll start with Kathie with this question, as her business operates both in commercial space and federal government space.
Yeah, we do business in federal and commercial, and there's some nice carryovers between doing business in both of the areas. Certainly relationships count in federal and commercial space. I think the way to build that relationship a little better in the government market is to be able to speak the language. And government has a tendency to have its own little nuanced communication that is really their language and identifies people who understand how to do business with the government. So I think that's probably one of the biggest differentials between federal and commercial. Not to get too technical into everything. It's learning to speak the government language. It's learning to understand the government hierarchy and making sure that you are attuned with what the actual government needs are. So, and I think, obviously everybody in here has insight on that. Gloria probably has as much as anybody, so.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate it. John, I think your business operates too, both in commercial and federal government space. Anything to follow up to that?
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar. As as Kathie pointed out, relationships are key. For me, for example, I've been in broadcast for many, many years. I have all the relationships. Now I'm starting to work in public safety the last 2 years with SAF. So it's a challenge for me, develop the new relationships, right? So, and it takes, the one key difference is commercial, generally, like broadcast and other markets, they can get the money quickly. They can get funding very quickly, whereas public safety, it takes typically a year, to 3 years before a project, the start of a project before it actually gets funded and you receive purchase orders.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Gloria has requested me to pull up a slide, so I'll pull that up right now and give her the chance to provide her insight.
Very good. Thank you so much. So some of the differences in the federal government marketplace on this slide, we're addressing 4 different areas. First of all, geographically, you can be anywhere in the United States. You don't have to be in Washington, D.C. to win business. You could literally be anywhere in the world to do business with the U.S. federal entities, whether it's Department of Defense or civilian agencies. Then right below the map are the different kinds of decision makers. There's 4 types of decision makers: contracting officers, program level people, and then small business representatives that are employed by the government to help you. All of those 3 layers are very important. But don't forget there's other contractors that you can work with. So that this is something that's different from the commercial marketplace. In the top of the right-hand side of the screen, there are certifications that you can go through if you're a small business in the United States. And there are different designations. We've been saying that Kathie's company is women-owned, WOSB. There are other kinds of certifications that you can get that will help you win federal contracts. And then finally, you would move from marketing your business, just like you do in the commercial marketplace, into bidding. So this marketing is very important. You want to proactively show the decision makers who are on the other side of the screen who you are, what you do, what you bring to the table. You want to meet with them, build relationships with them, and then start bidding. So we can turn the slide off now. Thanks, Renārs.
Thank you, Gloria. I appreciate that. I also would like to hear from Sandis on this topic, as his business is one of the few in the United States that's located in Latvia that's successfully doing business in the United States. Sandis, can you maybe provide us a little bit of your story and how you got here too?
Yeah. So I want to emphasize that at the first moment, the federal government seems really like, it's an entity and really kind of like frightening, but actually those are people, like humans, and those humans does have empathy. And in my Exonicus story, during this contracting process with all these things what the Gloria is mentioning, in the first moment, it's completely like, gibberish. I really can't relate anything to my prior experiences in Latvia or even in Europe. But as a conclusion, my suggestion is, and which was the case for Exonicus, we just asked. We did not hesitate to communicate. We did not hesitate about the accent, or the origin, me as a Latvian. And in most cases, the contracting officers or even in the process, other like administrators were very helpful. They were actually supportive. And just that's the fact. And this is where how we got to this point. And now I understand what the Gloria is saying. The map is clear. Please follow that map. Just don't do stupid mistakes, which I did on sam.gov, for example, clicking into one section, with, let's say, devices being not US approved. But in that specific case, again, those are humans, meaning contracting officers that pointed out, yeah, and the mistake was fixed.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that guidance too. I think a good takeaway from this one as well is apply your commercial experience, right? And think about how you can expand it to the federal government space as well. And at the end of the day, don't be afraid to ask for help, right? It seems like we can all use it, and it's a good thing to have each other's backs too. And John, do you have anything to add? I saw you got yourself off the mute.
Yeah, yes. Like, is a Latvian-based company, but we have an office in Denver. We have our, thousands of American-based in Denver. And being, again, like Sandis, we sell mainly in the DoD. Being a NATO partner is huge. I use it all the time when I'm talking to, end customers, and they acknowledge, yes, Latvia is a NATO partner. So that's a really big positive that, any Latvian business has if you're selling into the DoD, and not just the DoD, any government entity. They don't want, generally, they shy away from stuff manufactured in China. Nothing against the Chinese, it's just, driven by politics, right? But we also, one other comment I would make is we use resellers a lot. So SAF, we have key resellers. We recently, sold through Raytheon. There's another company in Florida called iGov. They resell SAF. So we have strong channels through resellers, to sell into the US DoD.
Thank you, everyone. Yep, thank you, everyone, for adding your expertise to this question. One of my questions that I think I asked early on as I started working with federal government is how can a small business effectively compete with federal government contracts against large companies? And I would like to direct this question first to Gloria and then Kathie, and then we'll go from there.
And if you don't mind, Renārs, if you could bring up slide 5, this actually will segue right into that. So small businesses are welcome in the US federal government marketplace, very welcome, as a matter of fact. But we need to address common challenges. So the first, up in the upper left corner, regulations, the contracting language that Kathie mentioned. You'd also have financial requirements. If you win $1 million contract, you have to be able to produce that $1 million worth of work that you're providing. And there is a long sales timeline, which we've addressed already. So as a small business, you want to be ready for the fact that this does not necessarily happen overnight. And to reiterate, for small businesses, right below that, there's some key resources that you can use. Of course, here at TargetGov, my company, happy to talk to you. What Kathie mentioned earlier, the Apex accelerators, I am going to give the link to the Apex accelerators. They're free. They're throughout the entire United States, no matter where you're located. There will be an Apex accelerator in your state that can provide you free consulting services in getting started as a small business in the federal government marketplace. The SBA is the Small Business Administration, sba.gov. They're there to help you have great resources as well. And that last acronym, the funny one, OSDBU, OSDBU, means it's the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Businesses, which means in every federal entity, whether it's defense or civilian agencies, they have an entire office that is there to help you as a small business see success in the federal government marketplace. So I'll stop talking now and turn this over to Kathie.
Thanks, Gloria. You're absolutely right on everything you say. You're just right all the time. Couple things from a small business perspective that, one, do you have to compete with the large partner? You might consider collaborating with the large business instead of competing against it. So that would be my first recommendation is let's look at our major players in this area as potential partners along with being competitors and play with them instead of against them. I would say that if you're bringing, and John brought this up, if you're bringing a product to the market that is interesting, required, wanted, federal government really doesn't care if you're big or small. As a matter of fact, they like doing business with small businesses. And if you have something that they can use, they're going to give you a chance. So I would never let the word small get into your vocabulary, because you have great things to give to the federal government and they want you. And then finally, and I actually learned this from Gloria, you can play big. You have a website and social media that can be positioned in such a way that you look really big. So, you know, if you want to play with how you're touching the market, absolutely give that a try. Make sure your website is up to speed. Look at the major competitors in your area. See if there's anything they're doing that you maybe should be doing, so that people don't look at you and think you're not quite as sophisticated. So those would be my three.
Thank you both to Gloria and Kathie. Sandy, John, anything to add to this?
I can add for the Latvians to understand better with example from Europe. It's similar to like being small.
Apologize, it seems like
Yeah.
Sandy,
Yeah.
sorry, it cut, the feed cut out. So can you please repeat it from the start?
Yeah, so specifically for the Latvians, an example from European Union where the small is actually a bonus. It is a possibility. In the United States with the federal government, it actually works much better than in European Union. In European Union, it's like, you know, small gets, but actually the large wins. In the federal government, United States case, small actually does, in often cases, win over the larger competitors, just from practical, my personal experience.
Thank you, Sandis. John?
Small, as long as you can deliver the product that they require, right? In many cases, they're large orders, so that's the only disadvantages small businesses would have.
Thank you, everyone. I think an interesting thing to discuss next would be, where would somebody even start? How could a company identify and pursue a relevant federal contract opportunity? And I'll let anyone jump in on this one first.
So I'll
Go
go
ahead.
ahead and start while Kathie's getting ready. In sam.gov, the free website, that's also where the government posts many of their opportunities, kind of like a bid posting area. And anyone can see them, and anyone who's registered in SAM can respond to them. However, you should work on developing relationships with the decision makers first. I would say don't just blind bid, because I think you'll waste a lot of time, effort, and energy. Instead, you want to build a relationship with the people who would be buying your services or products before the bid comes out. And you'll have a much higher chance of winning if they know who you are and want you, and you're not just blind responding to bids.
Can I step in just to help Latvians to understand? Because the first question would be where I do meet those people. You know, I live in Latvia or I sometimes travel. So those are an industry conferences. In Latvia, there are organizations for defense, for example, DAIF in Latvian, the Drošības aizsardzības Industry Federācija. They organize these trips to United States. And so AUSA, for example, is the next one. Latvians go there, join those trips, and speak, be proactive, make these relationships. And so then the next comes what Gloria said.
Thank you, Sandis. Kathie?
Well, statistically in our business, if we do not have a relationship with someone that we're bidding on, or some projects that we're bidding on, our chance of winning those are 3% across the board. If we have a relationship with either the end user or somebody within that bid project, our close ratio will go to 60%. So it's not to say you can't bid on projects without knowing the people, just the chances of winning, you're improving our, you have a much bigger chance of improving that. That said, again, if we go back to this Apex accelerator, they do have a tool that's kind of interesting. It's called My Bid Match. And what it can do is customize the bids that you look at and get access to that can be very specific to what you need. So Renārs actually did this for us with the Apex accelerator, and using criteria like we only want to bid on projects that are women-owned small business set-asides. We don't want to compete against anybody else. We only wanted projects of this size. We only want this, we only want that, so that it is narrowing our focus to where we can seriously make a difference. And that's a good tool. Once you get that tool in place, you can check on a daily basis. It comes through your computer. You can check on a daily basis on your email what types of opportunities are meeting your criteria, where they are, what agencies are doing it. So it's an interesting tool, and it has a lot of capabilities from a research standpoint, and gathering some information about how to do business or where the business is coming from.
Thank you, Kathie. John, I would be really curious to ask you maybe a follow-up question to this, as I know we previously had a discussion of how important relationships are within the federal government business. So can you maybe expand a little bit on what role does networking, this building relationship, play in securing federal government opportunities?
Yeah, happy to, Renārs. Yeah, like in any business, right? I mean, relationships are key. It's key, as some of our other panelists mentioned, to get in front of the opportunity. You don't want to. It's it's very difficult to come in there when the bid comes out and win. Your chances are maybe 5%, and there's a tremendous amount of work involved. So it's best to get in when these entities require like a request for information, right? You want to get an alert when they're a request for information, when they're before they're putting a bid together, right? And that's your opportunity to develop the relationship. Usually such a request for information would give you a contact information, and that's when you get in there, help them develop the bid. And that's going to lead to much greater success. If you don't do it, your competitors are certainly doing that. So it's essential. Your chances go up tenfold if you get in there in front of the bid, before the bid happens. I've been working with bids for many years, and I've helped my customers write the bids, and that's where success comes from.
Thank you, John. And I saw Gloria raise her hand first, and then Sandis did, so we'll go in that order with additional comments on this.
In addition to the wonderful conference that Sandis mentioned, AUSA, that's coming up, where being in person is very good, all of the federal agencies have webinars just like this, where you can dial in from throughout the world and participate and get those relationships started, to understand if you're targeting Department of Health and Human Services, or if you're targeting the Department of the Army or Navy. So you don't always have to get on an airplane to come to the United States. Many of the virtual meetings are very possible to take advantage of to start those relationships as well.
And I want to add that actually DoD is coming to Latvia and the Baltics, because 2017, April, I think 15, Latvian MOD and US DoD signed an agreement to make sure the Latvian companies, research, qualify for those US bids, even as a Latvian company. And so past 2-3 years, DoD has extensively coming. So it's through the Latvian MOD. And just for the Latvians, go show up to those meetings, make those relationships. The last one was in Lithuania, but they come to the Baltics, and so they are scouting. The 5G department is actually coming and speaking face to face to many. So again, for Latvian people, do not hesitate, have a face to face meeting, show up 2 years on a row,
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's insights. I do want to ask maybe this might be one of our last questions today before Q&A, but let's talk a little bit about mistakes. And can you maybe all share what common mistakes or learning opportunities you had that you can give advice on to our audience when bidding on federal contracts, and how to possibly avoid them?
I'll kick off. One of the first mistakes is to not realize that the US federal customer is different. If you've been successful in Latvia, in the United States, in the commercial marketplace, and you try to do business the same way as you do in the commercial marketplace, you will not see success. So it's important to realize that this is a very different market with its own language. I actually wrote a book to help you called The Basic Guide to Government Contracting, which is available on the website. It literally puts it into a step-by-step process so that you can see how to do this effectively.
Thank you. Sandis, maybe from a Latvian standpoint, what have been some learning opportunities that you experienced?
Mm-hmm. So from Latvian point of view, just to make sure that written language is, good in English in the communication. And I think it's very, very important to read the book Gloria has, provided as a reference, because I think for me, it would save a lot of nerves if I would kind of, just it's its own language and the procedure, which I would highly suggest to go properly through. Otherwise, it's just too much of stress for the Latvian person facing it first time.
Thank you, Sandis and Gloria. John, I know you mentioned your answer to a lot of bids. You do a lot of work in federal government. Why don't we go with you first? And I would like to also hear from Kathie from her experience.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest mistake is to come in there too late, as we mentioned. When the bid is already out, you're basically, you're at a big disadvantage. I would say that's the biggest mistake that people can make. I would emphasize for people to, when you go in and develop the relationship, and then when you put the bid out, give them a compelling reason why they should buy your product versus the competitor, right? I mean, write up a nice, introduction to your company, and you already have relationships at that point, but do a nice cover sheet and give them compelling reasons why they should buy your company over the competition. Don't just throw out numbers and make it personal, right? Is what I would recommend.
Thank you, John. Kathie?
I think doing business with the federal government is wonderful, but it should be in your company's DNA. So if you are a highly entrepreneurial, going to different things, wanting to do things quickly, wanting to be a little less consistent, you're maybe not T-crossers and I-dotters. I think that's the biggest mistake people make. This is a long-term play. It's very chip and a putt. It's very process oriented, and it's not fast. And you need to have that kind of thought process in your DNA as a business before you really reach out to the federal government. Or maybe you even just need a person in your organization with that kind of DNA. If you do, it's wonderful. But I think that's the biggest mistake companies make, is thinking that their company will fit with this type of a marketing approach that's going to take them anywhere from 2 to 5 years to really realize the benefits of. So keep that in mind as you're looking at this market, and make sure it's in your DNA.
Thank you, everyone. Sandi, you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's a long-term game. So for Latvian startups, just forget about quick sale to the federal government, and not going to happen. But when it happens, it's actually good for the business. And what the Kathie was mentioning, you actually need a lawyer type person, a very organized, who follows the requirements. Just get the lawyer type person in your team with good English, you'll be fine.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I think what we've done in these last 25 minutes is really scratch the surface of the whole process of working with federal government. But I also would like to allow some time for our audience to ask some questions. So I'm going to bring in Christina back to join our panel and provide some questions that have been asked by our audience.
Hi, everyone. I will agree with Renārs. We have just scratched the surface. I think just from engagement, we've seen that folks have stayed on, so they're clearly enjoying everything you have to share with us. So we have a couple of questions. I'm going to repeat this one. I saw Gloria already answered it. So do you need company to be registered in the US in order to apply for sam.gov? And Gloria shared that you do not. You do not need to be a US registered company to apply. So anybody can apply for sam.gov. Another question that I saw was a request for a link to Gloria's book. We'll make sure and share that. We will post the information as far as the book goes. And then the question that we currently have is, if my company in Latvia wants to provide IT services to US government, is it mandatory for me to have US-based citizens located in the US who provide these services, or can they be from the EU?
Gloria, do you maybe have a response to this question? Gloria, you're muted.
I was trying to answer something that came in via text. Sorry, Christine, would you mind saying it again?
No worries. It's if my company in Latvia wants to provide IT services to US government, is it mandatory for me to have US-based citizens located in the US who provide these services, or can they be from the EU?
It's not mandatory that they be US citizens. They can be from any trading partner, and Latvia is a trading partner. Where it gets into problem is if China or a country who is not an approved trading partner of the US would be Chinese citizens, say, for instance. But for Latvian citizens, it would not be a problem, and they don't have to be US citizens.
And maybe to add from my business experience too with federal government, I would say there are specific government entities that will require either your installers or somebody who's actually performing the work inside of the fence of the organization and in the building, in some cases, to be United States citizens. So maybe Kathie can expand a little bit on that, on how we, let's say if we go to other side of the state, how we maybe use an installer who's approved to do this type of work.
Yeah, I do know that a lot of times when we're working in the federal agencies, there are background checks and things that need to be done. And they're checking to make sure that anyone coming into federal buildings and agencies are legit. That doesn't preclude people, as Gloria said, from participating nations to be one of those people. But there are some types of areas that are limited to people with certain background checks. That's where we, so I would test before you did that and make sure. Ooh, Sandis, you'll answer this better.
Yeah. So for this one specifically, any work done in United States require appropriate visa. I just simply know that, and make sure that it's on place. If things done remotely, that's a different story outside of the U.S. ground, and that depends on the requirements of the customer. So DoD would be very, let's say, would require the company to be very, like, cybersecurity. There are some specific requirements, and other entities, they have requirements, but the physical work on the US soil must be done under the visa, appropriate visa. That's a very important statement.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that.
We
Christina,
have
do you have any more questions?
Yes, we have quite a few. So I'm going to bring on Felipe. I know he's from Brazil. He's raised his hand, so he's going to join us on the little screen and has the ability to ask his question. Felipe, you're on.
Felipe, if you're trying to speak, I think you're on mute.
Okay, while we are waiting for Felipe, I'm going to ask the next question. A question was asked, how does double taxation work between Latvia and US? Is Latvia businesses eligible to be exempt from sales tax?
Most sales tax in the United States are state sales tax. If you're selling to the US federal government, there's no sales tax.
Okay, I hope we answered that question. Next question we have is there a resource for finding current government contractors to work with if you wanted to be a subcontractor?
I would say take advantage of your Apex Accelerator because they'll know the prime contractors in their backyard, your backyard, that you could be the best match with.
And just, I'm going to jump in.
Kathie, you had a break in your bandwidth. Can you please repeat that?
Okay, my internet is unstable. I was saying that the Apex Accelerator can act. Congressmen and senators.
Yeah, sorry, Kathie, I don't know if you heard us, but it seems like you have a bandwidth issue. So I'm going to jump in on this one. One of the, I think, very helpful parts for Latvians and
Oh no. We are having some technical difficulties. While Renārs and Kathie are trying to get back online with us, final call for questions that we might have before we break into final remarks, whether that's in chat or in Q&A function. This is your opportunity to ask questions to our group. It looks like Gloria.
Actually, one of the main documents that you will be asked for all the time is called a capability statement. And I'd like to give a template, a guide, a capability statement guide to anyone who is here today or might be listening to this as a recording, so that when Renārs comes back on and he can share the screen with the last slide, there will be a QR code there. If you just take a picture of the QR code, I'm going to send everybody a capability statement guide so you know what it needs to be and how to create one, along with a few other complementary resources for you.
Thank you, Gloria. That is incredibly generous of you. And if we didn't have mentioned this before, Gloria's business has helped several clients secure over $20 billion worth of contracts. So we are so fortunate to have her today and share her expertise. I want to thank each and every panelist that's been here today. I appreciate your time and your answers. I'm certain that we have all kind of gained some knowledge that we didn't have. As I mentioned before, we've had really high engagement of folks staying on the webinar and listening to the content. So that alone is a sign of us doing a great job. So with that, I'm going to bring back Liva. So, looks like we are sharing that QR code as we promised. So go ahead and take a screenshot. Perfect. Thank you so much, Renārs, for sharing that. And we just have some final notes as far as the official programming goes that we wanted to share. So Liva, take it away.
Thanks so much, Gloria. Your 5 slides are so important. So hopefully, actually, we can share them with everyone who has registered. And we also have a recording of the event. So no worries if you missed a name or a book title or whatever, everything will come your way. So yes, thank you all so much for being here today. I think it was fantastic. A really roadmap to how to work with the U.S. government, and especially about the positive words. For it doesn't matter if you're small, that the U.S. government also has compromised a set of people with whom it's important to build relations, and who really want to see you succeed, and to really hear Latvian companies already doing that is a very nice way to set the stage.
Absolutely. I think that this is what networking is all about. This is what the Red Jackets and the Latvian American Chamber of Commerce are all about. And so we want to make sure and hope that today's discussion kind of inspired you and pursue doing business with the United States, because you have many folks on screens here that have done it, that have lent their information to be a resource to you in the future. So definitely utilize that. And so we are going to launch a poll to ask some feedback questions. Ali.
Exactly. This is the first webinar in which we have 2 polls, but the first one was very, very informative about really your ability and your want to work with the U.S. government. And this one is more about these webinars, how to make them most relevant to you as listeners, and to really hear maybe other topics or things that you might be interested in the future events. And while you are pressing the magical numbers, we also wanted just to say that to save the date for the next webinar that will take place October 29th. More details on the topic will be shared as soon as possible. So hang in there. We still have two webinars left during this project, and hopefully we will have some positive news for you by the end of the year as well.
Yes, we are really excited and hopeful that you will continue joining us for the next ones. And this officially concludes our formal program for the day. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, we're going to be launching into informal optional networking. So if you are interested and willing to stick around, we'd love to have you. We will be launching into breakout rooms, which are traditional to Zoom settings. So for those that are attendees, make sure that you are somewhere where you can unmute and have your camera on if possible to have meaningful discussion. They're going to be randomly assigned, so bring your best self and just really have a good time chatting with us, and just stay and make some connections. I think this is what it's all about. So again, thank you so much for your time, and we are so happy that you joined us today. So we're going to be launching into to breakout rooms. Thank you.